The last J-Lo action movie I saw wasn't too great, but I was curious to check her out in the new Netflix sci-fi Atlas. There's a ton of shootouts and explosions, but can the story hold your attention? Atlas Shepard, a brilliant but misanthropic data analyst with a deep distrust of artificial intelligence, joins a mission to capture a renegade robot with whom she shares a mysterious past. But when plans go awry, her only hope of saving the future of humanity from AI is to trust it. So Lopez is Atlas Shepard, a woman who's grown up with AI in her life. And at the very start of the movie, we are given a large exposition dump to inform us of what has transpired, which is this huge AI uprising, led by a humanoid AI, Harlan, played by Simu Liu. After a ton of destruction, Harlan escapes Earth with the threat of returning to finish his annihilation that he had begun. Then the story jumps us about 30 years into the future, where we watch Atlas joining a military mission to go and capture Harlan. For the Atlas character, Lopez has to play her as very grating and standoffish. She rubs just about everybody the wrong way, so it does take a lot of time to warm up to her character, especially because we don't get any development outside of the short narrative at the start of the film. Now, Mark Strong and Sterling K. Brown, they also star in this. I really wish we got more introductory time with each of them. And then them with Atlas, because there's this strained dynamic that could add more meat and meaning to future interactions. As it stands, we're provided with enough information to get it and then move forward with the story, though. Now, once Atlas and the team arrive at their destination, she goes through an arduous process of whether or not she's going to put her trust in an AI battlesuit. She's got massive distrust for AI, not only because of what Harlan did by just creating a genocidal uprising, but also for a very personal reason, which we learn about later. The banter she has with her AI counterpart, voiced by Gregory James Cohen, reminded me a little of Tars and Case from Interstellar, even though those had more of a human delivery. Now, Smith, the AI that Atlas talks to, does retain a lot of conversational mannerisms in his cadence. There's still a little stiffness to showcase just more roboticness and less human presence. I did chuckle a few times at both Atlas and Smith's deliveries. They're provided with moments that are snarky, but come across naturally. And even though Simu Liu is one of the top billed in this, he's not in it nearly as much as you might expect. He plays more of a part in the final act, and during this segment, we get to see some exciting fighting with engaging choreography. And because he's not human, the production allows him to showcase abilities that create fun visuals. And some of these feel very familiar to other space-themed movies, but it didn't ruin the experience. I mean, it just made it slightly less unique. And because of his lack of screen time, Liu is grossly underutilized in this. I mean, the character of Harlan, outside of some fighting techniques, is a very generic bad guy. Now, Liu does his best to elicit engagement with the character, but a cold and calculated robot with little time on screen makes it difficult to even create an emotional response to it, whether that be positive or negative. Now, one thing that did create a negative feel for me was a massive villain exposition dump. We get the regrettable villain monologue where they detail out all of their motivations and nefarious plans. So instead of showing this, or building it throughout the storyline, we get the impetus for his actions towards the end of the movie. And by that time, it's a bit too late. Honestly, during the monologue, Harlan details a portion of his plan that was directly borrowed from a very high-grossing Marvel movie. I mean, it is unmistakable and unfortunate. Now, because this is a sci-fi action story, throughout so much of the movie there's a lot of CGI, which is expected. And this is where it becomes very mixed bag. Sometimes the imagery is convincing with great texturing and great graphics. Other times, and I think more often than not, the visuals look like video game cutscenes. There's just this level of unconvincing realism to what we see, and that broke me out of the immersion at times. In the violence, it's still enjoyable, and a couple of the kills are excellent and then gross, but because of the imbalance in quality, the poor ends up being more memorable than the good. Now, I know I've listed off a bunch of negatives without a lot of highlights, but the truth is, this was fun for a casual watch. I mean, it's not deep, even though it does attempt to be. And I think the story believes it is rich with social commentary, even though it misses that mark. The action, it's quick and violent, interspersed with a little humor, and then a few mildly touching moments. And all the beats are predictable, and the film as a whole, it's not memorable. But if you are in the mood for something that doesn't require much investment, this is kind of like Little Caesar's Pizza. It's hot and ready. Is it good? Well, it's hot and it's ready. So overall, Atlas introduces an intriguing concept, but thanks to the lack of time spent developing a meaningful background, on the world building and the characters, there's no connection to the players or the plot, leading to a forgettable narrative and meaningless storyline. The graphics are mixed with some creating engaging visuals, while the rest become more of a distraction. And while some humor is present, and there are some touching exchanges, the characterizations across the board are shallow and generic, leading to a forgettable watching experience. There's no sex or nudity, a lot of profanity, and then a ton of violence. I give Atlas 2.5 out of 5 couches. I was hopeful that this was going to be more fun than it turned out to be. So, maybe next time. Are there any AI-themed movies that you enjoy? Now, for me, I still love iRobot. Let me know yours, though, in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.